what you're doing, or, if you have clothes on or any of that stuff. So don't worry about that. We are doing the webinar format for the whole thing. So if you have been before and you haven't been in a couple of months, we don't do the breakout rooms right now. It's kind of a trial thing. It's worked out really well. It's given our presenters a longer chance to answer questions with everyone. And the breakout rooms were just at the time no longer needed. So that doesn't mean they won't come back. But for now, our webinar just keeps going till everyone's had their questions answered, till we are all good to go, move on, do that thing. So if you haven't been and you're like, what the heck is going on with this new lady? I don't know. That's why we are just doing the webinar format tonight. But Eli will be available to answer all your questions. And I forgot to ask her whether she wants to be interrupted or wait to the end. So we'll figure that out before I bring her on. So like I said, if this is your first one, welcome. I'm so happy. These are so much fun for me. I have such a great time doing them. So we are getting ready to bring the fabulous Cindy Ball on. She is our founder. She's our leader. She's lots of things to lots of people. To me, again, dear friend, she's so smart and I love her to death. But she's going to come on and she's going to share our purpose statement and our mission statement. And I hear she's got some fun events coming up that I'm going to share a graphic for. So Cindy, welcome, beautiful.
Hello. I'm telling you, if I just had an eighth of your energy at the end of my day, I would just get so much more done. Julie, you're just amazing. And I love you too. All right. The reason we are all here tonight and having a virtual gathering is to empower women through homesteading. And I love this format because those of you who are not part of a local chapter, we will take you in here and love on you and teach you and help you build community right now until we can get a chapter set up in your county. The next thing is our mission statement, and this is very pivotal in all that we do in the National Ladies Homestead Gathering. It's to share knowledge, which is a major part of why we're here tonight. The second one is to build community, and I feel like now, after everything that's gone on in the last 3 years, community is essential for not just our physical health, but our mental health and even spiritual health. So welcome. Thank you for being part of our community this evening. And then the last one, which I've seen over and over and over. In fact, I can attest to the fact that having been involved with LHG for 13 years, my closest friends are here. And that's our third one, is to grow friendship. So thank you all so much for being here. Julie, you're doing a phenomenal job. Eli, I cannot wait. I actually have my questions pre-formed before, because I too have been very, very interested in this. And so thank you very much for sharing with us tonight. So Julie, take it away and thank you.
All right. Well, Cindy, I've got a question for you, because you are doing this for Kansas, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I realized sharing this graphic, I cut the dates off. Do you happen to know the dates for when you're speaking?
I do. They're the last weekend of April. Hold on.
Okay, so the 29th and the 30th. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, it's the 29th and 30th. And we'll be in Lawrence, Kansas.
Perfect. So if you guys want to go see Cindy, she'll be there with the Mother Earth News Conference. This is her schedule for Saturday and for Sunday. She's got book signings. She's doing some talking. So lots of fun stuff. So make sure you check her out. If you're able to get over to Lawrence, Kansas, we got a couple of weeks. Maybe we can pull it off. But there you go. So there's that. That'll be so much fun. I like when you see.
And Julie, too, if you all are attending this one, please stop by our booth and introduce yourself. Because we would love to meet you face to face. So thank you. This is a surprise. I didn't know you were putting it up here tonight.
Full of surprises. I am full of surprises. You never know when I'm going to pull out of my hat, which is part of the reason people love me so much.
Well, thank you.
Yes, of course. So, moving on to one of the other amazing executive staffs, we're getting ready to bring the fabulous June on. She is our membership director, and every month we share Atta Girls. If you're in our private online community, which is community.nlhg.org, you get to kind of share what you've been up to this month. And I think they're fascinating, because at my gathering, I think it was in March. It was a particular week that my atta girl was that my children were still alive by the end of the day. And it can be something like that, or it can be something like, I planted a million chickens and I bought my new homestead and all of the things, right? So it's all about just sharing in your community and being proud of what you've done. And I think sometimes we struggle with sharing what we're proud of. So June, do you have a moment to share with us what all of these amazing women have been doing there?
Hi, Julie. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to read this month's Atta Girl Moments. We always say, remember, nothing is too small to share. Even a failure, if we consider it a failure, it's still an Atta Girl if you tried it. So I'm going to share some of these. Maria shared she turned someone on to herbal medicine and completely turned her husband's views of it around. Square foot garden in, up and growing. It's working. Amy shared she had a busy March. She moved her chicken coop, attached its run, and introduced her chickens into their new living quarters. She started building a second and third coop. She filled raised beds, organized seeds, got her last raised bed together. But I like, she ended it with this: I just love the country life. Every day brings something new. There is a special peace here. Patty said, I helped my husband with a wood wall in our living room. A lot of measuring to get the cuts right. We varnished before we put on the walls and used an air nailer. And she shared a beautiful picture of that. So make sure you check that out. Atta girl to all you ladies so far. Let's see. Lisa said they finished their pastures fencing, got 5 pigs, 2 livestock guardian dogs, ducklings, and meat chickens. We're almost done building a new coop and storage shed, built 2 pig houses, and put in gates. She's broke but happy. Juanita shared her first season, her first veggie. She did it. She made a bean. Atta girl. Beth shared she finished lambing season, 34 Tunis lambs. They're a multi-purpose heritage breed. They're born cinnamon colored, but their fleece turns to creamy white as they mature. And she shared a sweet picture. Make sure you check that one out. Atta girl. Renee shared, we finally caught our free-ranging ducks and clipped their wings so they stay contained. Been trying for quite a while. Now I can finally plant my cold crops. Atta girl. Darlene said we have 5 or 6 baby rabbits. 3 ducks are sitting on nests, and she's expecting ducklings today or tomorrow. Yay. Kendall shared, I've taken 4 more boxes of stuff to the thrift store or given away out of our guest bedroom and prep for using as a kid's bedroom. And I'd like to use the closet for canning storage. Cleaned off our back porch, pulled out some grow bags and containers for tomatoes, marigolds, and herbs this year as I'm pregnant and already have a toddler. Doing extra is hard while pregnant, but I'm decluttering and getting through toddler sleep regression. Wow, atta girl. Jennifer bought her very first pressure canner. She hasn't opened it yet, but she's excited to learn to use it. Toretta said, my husband and I got our backyard fenced in with goat fencing. Our 2 rescue healers are enjoying running in a larger area, but not going over and bothering our neighbors' horses. Atta girl, ladies.
There's so many good ones.
Thank you. Yeah, there are so many. So make sure you go on there on our private online community to read them all. Thank you, Julie.
Of course, June. Thanks for coming on. And we would honestly love to hear from all of you on here. So if you are not on our private online community, besides having a chance to share your accomplishments, you get like a plethora of knowledge from across the United States because you have your own like little community, but you also have access to everyone that's on there. And there's no rules and restrictions on what you can share. So if you've butchered something, share it. You have a question about a sick animal, share it. There's nothing that you're going to get in trouble on there when it comes to homesteading. So make sure you check it out. It's at community.nlhg.org. I'm sure Christine will throw that in the chat. If you guys don't know, Christine's my new magic woman behind the scenes, as Jessie should be having a baby any day now. So that's very exciting. Thanks, Christine, for all that you do behind the scenes. I have so many people to come on tonight. So I'm like bouncing back and forth because we have so many fun people. Another exciting happening within our community, and if you are on our private online community, you've probably seen it, but if not, I have the amazing Teresa is here. She's going to talk to you about our upcoming cookbook. She's our director of fundraising, and I'm super excited about this opportunity. So, Miss Teresa, would you like to show your wonderful face and talk to these over 60 people about the cookbook we have?
It says you have to enable my video.
Oh, well, maybe I should do that. Maybe that would be helpful. Maybe I should make you a co-host before I talk a bunch of smack. Here we go. That should work.
Hello. It is so good to see you and to see everybody's names popping up in the chat and where you're from. So hopefully you have been on our online community and have seen the post for the cookbook. But just in case you have not, we'd like to encourage you to go there. We also have posts on the national Facebook page. But in a nutshell, what we're doing is using our cookbook for a national fundraiser this year. You know, Cindy has done a great job of getting around the country and meeting all different people, and a lot of the executive team have, and that's how we grow. That's how our community grows, is by getting out to some of these other events and introducing ourselves. That's certainly how I became involved. And, you know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. We have to have funding to be able to get out there and to share the beautiful organization that we have and invite other ladies to join us. So that is the purpose. There is a type form that was part of Julie's beautiful pre-seminar, pre-webinar screen that was popping up, and that's where you can submit your recipes. We really would love to have you submit things that are very traditional in your families and your areas, things maybe that you do for specific holidays or events, because we think that that helps to display the diversity of our community. And we are such an amazing group of women from all over the country. So just to make this a little bit, well, let me back up. You guys have to hang on for just a second. We are accepting deadlines. The deadline for submitting your recipes is July the 8th. But you don't want to wait until the last minute, right? You want to get those in so that we can get this thing put together and out to you. We'd like to have it available for you first part of November, so that you can share these as gifts and, you know, for your personal families and all of that other stuff. So just to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to put out a challenge out there. Julie has a list of all of our attendees this evening. And if we can get between tonight and our next national virtual gathering in May, if you guys and your friends will submit 100 recipes, I am buying 2 extra cookbooks just to give away to 2 of you. So get busy, get those recipes entered. We will, assuming we get them all by next month, and I'm confident that you guys will meet the challenge, then we will tell you the names of the 2 people who win. And as soon as the cookbooks are printed and released, I will ship those out to you. So that's my challenge.
Yay. Teresa, we had some questions in the chat. So I thought before you went away, one, I think Christine asked, she submitted recipes, but she found some mistakes and she didn't know if she could review those or fix them. Is that something she could email you to find out that process?
That's probably the best thing to do, Christine, would probably be to email me. And you can do that at fundraising@nlhg.org. Just tell me the name of your recipe and what mistakes you want us to correct. You can't do it on the type form. You can't correct it there, but we will get that information. We will fix it.
Okay. And then Cynthia asked, what type of recipes? I'm a pastry chef. And I said, bring on all your recipes, Cynthia. Bring
Absolutely.
on.
Somebody else had messaged me on Mighty Networks today. She's making traps for like insects and pests and wondered if that recipe would be good. And I'm like, oh yeah, we have a whole section for this and that.
Yeah.
So we would definitely include it in that area. Yep.
Yes. We've got, last year there were salves, there was how to make a rabbit's foot, like into a Lucky Charm. Like the last cookbook was so awesome. I'm super pumped about this one. It's going to be great. So thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to seeing 100 new recipes, ladies.
Oh, I think we can do it. I mean, there's already so many amazing people on here. And don't you all make me look bad. We're going to get this done. I'm going to finish mine. Teresa even messaged me and said, are you going to finish this? And I was like, oh yeah, that thing. Sure. Yes, 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 I will. Yes, I will. So
Yay.
awesome.
Right.
Thanks so much, Teresa. Okay, so it's almost time for Eli to come on, but I have one more exciting thing to share. And I share it every month because our marketing director, Jill Wolf, is one of, I don't know how she does the things she does. I'm going to share this picture while I talk. So share my screen, share this. Okay, so Jill has created all of these super cute things that are in our shop, and it's so much fun. She does a discount code for each month that she puts things out. So there's a discount code that goes with these, and I'm sure Christine will drop it in the chat because that's just what she does for me. But I'm sorry, she works hard for the honey. Like, who doesn't need that? Like, I kill bees every chance I get, and it's not on purpose. They just don't really like me, and I don't understand them, and we haven't found our vibe. But I'm for sure going to get one of these because even if you don't have bees, we work hard for all the things, right? We work hard for all the things. So Jill, I don't know if you're on here tonight or not, but thank you so much for creating these because they're so cute. You guys go check them out. That $5 off is for your purchase. Buy all the things. They're so cute. They're so much fun. I really enjoy them. Okay, now I have to stop sharing my screen. Where am I? What's my name? Where am I doing? What am I doing? That's how I feel tonight. Anyone else have those days? That's how I feel today. We've had like plague of sickness after plague of sickness after plague of sickness. And then baseball decided to jump in on that. And my brain is so happy to be here tonight because I needed something other than baseball, illness, or baseball and illness. That's where I am. Okay, that's enough about me. Now, for our speaker, Eli is one of the most, I think, again, she's going to laugh at all of this. I think she's one of the most highly experienced and passionate naturopaths that I have, one, ever had the chance to meet, but also I have looked around and studied and explored all of the other ones across the United States, and I just love her. She is truly has a unique approach to healthcare, and I think it's fascinating and it's compassionate, and I'm excited to apply that knowledge to animals. She's got over 17 years of experience. She is truly, I think, she's honed her skills, whether it's using water or plant medicine or homeopathy or nutrition. It's all with the purpose to restore health and remove symptoms in all animals, which includes us. But of course, tonight we're talking about homestead animals. And her expertise really doesn't stop there because she ventured into homesteading not long ago here in the fabulous state of Oklahoma. She's not that far from me, so I'm super lucky. But in that journey, she's gained a ton of invaluable experience in using natural medicine to care for her own animals, and she's definitely helped our community. I know tonight she's probably going to share a little bit about Chick Ick because it's something that she's gonna have for a giveaway, but I can vouch for my chickens. It works. It was awesome. She believes that in establishing a healthy state in animals and people, as well as the environment, can help us prevent illness. And I truly believe that she loves nothing more than sharing all of that and teaching others. That's why I feel like she is the person for this job. So I'm gonna have Christine drop her presentation in the chat again. Eli, I forgot to ask you, and I already said, What do you want people to do tonight? Do you want them to interrupt you with questions, or I would be interrupting you with questions? Or do you want to have them ask and then we'll answer all of them at the end? What's your preference, darling?
Why don't we ask as we go? That way it's right there in my mind and we can keep a good flow.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to take this off and it's your turn. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen now. And there we go. I'm so excited to be here. And I have to tell you, the mission statement of the National Ladies Homestead Gathering is, it's the only way I think the world is going to last any amount of time, through this community and through friendship and through sharing of knowledge. And I sure know that the world was crazy at one point, and here it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to talk to you about natural medicine and homestead animals. You have to know that I'm not a vet, right? And what I'm presenting to you is for educational purposes. I have to do this because I'm a physician, right? And I'm not a veterinarian. So I'm giving you information. I'm telling you what I do. I'm telling you what research has shown us. And, sometimes it's not always about the research that's been done, but hundreds of years of doing something and it works. And sometimes it doesn't matter why it works. We know it works. But don't take anything I say in here as the treatment that you should do. And just thank you. So a little bit about me so that you know who is talking to you. And I'm going to turn my ringer off. Sorry. I usually do that before I get on. Okay. I'm Cherokee, and my family, we can trace all the way back to Georgia, and they eventually ended up in Grove, Oklahoma. And then we were Cherokee at large. I have been for the majority of my life. I went to medical school in 2000, graduated in 2005. I have a specialization in homeopathy and in nature cure. I have a small private, it's an international practice because I traveled around the world. I know people all over, and my practice is made up of people from everywhere. I teach business at the medical schools. I teach homeopathy to everybody. And along the way, I started writing and publishing books and started a publishing company and a lot of stuff in that world. But I'm raising up two awesome humans, my grandchildren, whom we adopted. And we became homesteaders 2 years ago and got this place named it Long Shadows Ranch. And what we do is teach younger generations, teach our generations how to live a sustainable life on the grid, partly off the grid, as much off the grid as we know, because we're not completely off the grid yet, but we're headed that way. And I love what I do. I love everything. If I don't love it and it's not helping other people, I don't do it anymore. In your notes, there's some books. I won't linger here too long. This is the basis of medicine from the nature cure perspective. Yes, for 6 years of medical school helps understand sort of the Western understanding of the body, but to understand health and nature cure and natural medicine, those were my foundational books. And I have every one of those. One of them, the Beyond Flat Earth Medicine, is a download, free download. I do have a course if homeopathy is your thing. And if you're interested in that, you can email me for a really good discount to give to all my homestead lady people. This is a free movie from Dr. Rick Kirshner. For years and years and years, he has tried to educate people as to how did we end up in the mess we sort of are in medicine. And just to set the stage, this is for the animals, but like Julie said, we're animals too. And there are differences, of course, between humans and other animals, but almost all biological systems share common elements. And these are the laws of nature, and the laws of nature have helped us put together a sort of medical philosophy of natural medicine, regardless of the organism that you're trying to do something with. And the animal body, as with all living systems on our planet, is always striving to be healthy. Everything it does is to restore and then get healthier in every moment of life. And when I say every moment, I mean like tick, 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 those 3 seconds My body was trying to be in its healthiest state. And sometimes when that happens, your body has a symptom of it trying to heal itself. And there are specific criteria that have to be true for animals, for people. It doesn't matter. There's specific rules that you have to follow. There's rules. If you don't follow those rules, then you get something other than what is supposed to happen. Like, so when you don't follow the laws of nature, you don't have the healthiest state. So we know that when the body is trying to heal itself, there can be symptoms. Think of a scrape or a cut, and then it gets itchy and oozy. That's the body healing. And those are symptoms of healing. So we know there's rules. We know that there's symptoms when the body tries to heal. We can bring that together in a logical next step of all symptoms are the visible healing actions of the body. You can see the body healing itself, which it does when you haven't met the criteria to be in your healthiest state. So thinking of the world we live in, our animals, us, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of stuff our bodies have to heal from. Now, in natural medicine, the natural healer, and that is you on the homestead. That's me as a doctor. That's any person who's caring for another living creature and trying to assist the body to heal itself, which is what natural medicine is all about. It's not about using herbs. It's not about using packaged vitamins, although those are tools of natural medicine sometimes. But in natural medicine, what you're doing is assisting that body to heal itself, your animals, your people, and you have to decide what's the best way to do that. And that usually depends on what's wrong.
Eli,
And go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but we had someone say, how can we find human doctors who practice homeopathy and natural medicine? That seems to be hard to find.
It is, but there are places that you can go. So if you go to each state and look for naturopathic doctor association, they're listed by state. There's a national organization. I have a referral list all over the place. There's about 30 doctors on my list. So I have to know them. I have to know how they practice. I have to have spent time with them before they make it to my referral list. So it's a very curated list, and you can always email me for that. And there's I would ask, like, put a post up. What you're looking for is a vitalistic naturopathic doctor who uses homeopathy. And I know that's a mouthful, but that's what you're looking for. And I'm gonna put that in the chat because that was a mouthful. So a vitalistic naturopathic doctor who uses homeopathy, because homeopathy is just a tool, right? The philosophy is what you're after. There's 50 ways to crack a coconut in naturopathic medicine. End result being the same. Doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you're doing this thing that my mentor taught me years ago. Whoever you're treating, the ideal practice of medicine, our medicine, is one that uses the least intervention for the maximum results, being to assist the body in healing itself, in which we use the symptoms of healing to know what to do. So it's a philosophy, and that's what the rest of this talk is based on, is this idea that an animal can be healthy and can heal itself. And what we need to do is figure out how do we make that happen? Or how do we help that happen? And the first rule of Homestead Natural Medicine is to establish the foundations of health. This includes diet, both the amount and the quality of what you're feeding. What I did not do, because people have so many different kinds of animals, and that dietary differences between those animals would have made this a 4-hour talk. So instead, what I did is I went to the root, to the base concepts, that if you do this for all of your animals, then you're establishing the foundations of health. You might just have to dig a little bit, or talk to one of the wonderful sisters here about what that might be if you're not familiar with it. But it is a foundation of health, proper diet. I'm not going to say a lot about GMO, right? But with the beautiful complexity of life in its design, for humans to start to intervene in that genetic makeup, it's a little bit scary to me. Well, it's a lot scary to me, and that's just my personal feeling. So I like things that are not GMO, and I will do organic every chance I get. Fresh, clean water always. Minerals, and that could be a mineral block. It could be minerals you add to the water, but they have to have minerals. And remember that what is growing on our planet now, and this is not just coming from the weird nature paths, this is now published by state governments, our federal government, our soil is losing minerals. Vitamins the plants make, but it's the minerals in the soil that crops and food crops and animal crops are losing the minerals. Clean and safe surroundings, because guess what? Animals get stressed out too. They have mental, emotional issues, which for some animals can be really disturbing to their quality of life and the humans around them. Clean just because if you set the stage, not clean as in go scrub things, but clean as in, things not lying around for animals to hurt themselves on, or you don't want any toxic things dripping on your land. And if you can make sure that animals are not on the downhill slope from a pesticided farm, those kinds of things. And they need interaction. They may seem like they're loners. Animals can be very stoic, but they need interaction too, especially if you have one or two of something. And especially if one or two of something that's normally in a herd or a pack, or right? But the whole point here with the first rule, this is the most important rule, is that when health is present in an animal, injury is less and less severe, less illness, and faster healing. So it's not that you may be able to prevent everything, but if your chickens get that respiratory distress for 2 or 3 days versus 2 weeks, it's much better for everybody, for the chicken, for the human, like all of that stuff. And when you go into a season with healthy animals, then you have less problems. Foundations of health. So this is, I said, establish it. These are the things, but what is it? So varies by animal, non-GMO, organic, feeding them compost. So we discovered that a lot of the grocery stores around that sell organic foods, if the organic food doesn't move quickly enough, well, it goes bad, and they will donate extra to shelters first. Then they'll put it out for people to pick up if they want it. And then they have a third quality of compost, and that's going to the landfill. But if you talk to the managers at the grocery stores and shops, they will likely make a deal with you where they have a spot where they'll leave it for you, and you set up a day to go get it. So we routinely pick up 100 to 200 pounds of organic compost that would otherwise go in a landfill, and we get to put it in the ground or feed it to our animals. And it's awesome, right? We're packing those minerals and nutrients into the soil. So you can do that too where you are. You just go talk to a local grocery store. Running water is best. And this comes to us from hundreds of years of animal science. It's oxygenated, it purifies itself as it's running. And this is as long as there's no toxic source dumping right into the water, right? Just the natural water running over rocks and through sand and things like that. That's a sort of a built-in filtration. And if you can't have running water, we don't have running water. We don't have a stream. We don't have that luxury. Daily water changes. And in the height of summer, it may have to be 2 or 3 times for the water. Minerals, so the blocks for the large animals, and liquid minerals, poultry and rabbit. And they need to have that clean and safe surrounding, grazing and sleeping. When an animal is stressed, it lowers its immune function, as does isolation, often from humans, especially if you've raised the animal from a baby. It's bonded with you, and animals bond with humans in different ways. Chickens bond. I know they have the brain the size of a pea, but they do, as do rabbits, goats, sheep, horses, cows, even the opossum, because we've discovered opossums are probably the absolute best tick predators. They'll bond with you, and they make up a home right near you, and they don't go anywhere. So what's the second rule? So first, establish the foundations. The second is use the least intervention for the maximum healing results in this order. So first you take care of the foundations, make sure that those things are in place. Then you look at the next step of medicine or intervention, water in the form of hydrotherapy, which we're going to talk about these in more depth. Homeopathy. No homestead should be without a homeopathic kit. I have been teaching homesteaders for 2 years and getting them kits and teaching them how to build these kits. And then I do lots of free talks all the time to get people using the remedies in the kits, because it's nothing short of what looks miraculous. It's not miraculous. Homeopathy is based on science, and it is an amazing modality, but it can work really fast and it's very gentle. Then we move up in that level of intervention, strength that we have to put in, and we look at herbal botanical medicine, supplements, which is sort of called functional medicine, although vets are very holistic. That animal doctors have a tendency to be more holistic than people doctors in the mainstream. You have your holistic vets, and of course, then your holistic doctors. Of course, we have to keep pharmacy and surgery in here because those are interventions often used to save life, at least surgery. Okay, that's the second rule. Let's talk about these in more depth, but I'll pause here. Are there any other questions?
So far, we're good.
Okay. So hydrotherapy, the basics. We're using water externally, although drinking is also a form of drinking water is a form of hydrotherapy. Well, just drinking can be a therapy in and of itself too, but we're going to stick with water for right now. The external use of water to assist the body that is trying to heal itself do it better, do it more easily. We do this for anything: injury, inflammation, pain, gut troubles, colic. If they've got, an elevated body temperature, or their body temperature has dropped, they've poisoned themselves with something, anything that changes the normal homeostatic state, which, and when you're in homeostasis, it doesn't mean you're at your healthiest, it just means you're not dead. To be in homeostasis means you're not dead. And so anything that changes that, we can think about using hydrotherapy for. So what's important about water is that the body responds to water. We are mostly water. Well, we're mostly space. We'll go into quantum physics a little bit there. We're mostly made up of space. But then as you start to get to the physical plane here, where a lot of parts of us is water, in animals as well. And when we use this external application of water in a therapeutic way, which I'm going to tell you how to do that, you increase circulation, you elevate temperature locally or body-wide, you can slightly decrease inflammation, temperature if you need to, routing immune cells to an area, cleaning up the blood. It can help release endorphins. It can help reduce pain. And then, once you do that, the body's healing can happen a little bit more easily. Hot. I've condensed this down, right? This is another whole weekend seminar to talk about hydrotherapy, but hot water, hot compresses draws blood. Cold moves it away because you get constriction and then you get expansion. So you get this pumping effect that happens with the hot and cold. And when you do that, you start to move blood and you move parts of the immune system. And 3 examples I'm going to go over with you are cold running water, alternating compress, and heating compress, because you can do all of these right on the homestead. You can do these with your people too, but you can do these on the homestead. They're free. It costs you just the cost of water and heating the water. So cold running water is part of original methods of hydrotherapy. This guy would put, and you can read about him if you are interested, which is why I put his name here. He's fascinating. He observed animals that had injuries in which cold running water flowed over them healed so much faster than other animals. Now, this is a long time ago, and people can argue that wounds had bacteria in them and they were really dirty, and that's why the water running, cleaning out the wound is what caused it. But that's okay to say. It's just that throughout history, from the time the water cures began to be used, there were times when both environments were sterile, and still the people or the animals that had cold running water on them healed faster. So it's pretty well established now that this has some kind of a healing effect. It's a living water. The molecules are moving. It stimulates and assists the body in healing somehow. Today, there's lots of science around it. I mean, we have entire professions, even in the mainstream world of medicine, that use water as therapy. But this is something practical. You have it right at hand, and it's powerful medicine. Okay, we have, and let me give you an example of that before I move on. So let's say that you have an animal, and we just did this with the chicken last week. So she was limping. She either hurt her foot on something, or the other chickens were being kind of mean, but she started limping. And so what we do is get a bucket of cold water and a bin and a cup, and hold the chicken over the bin, and we just pick up the water and then pour it over. And we took turns doing that because you want to do it for a couple hours. But she was fine the next day. We also used a homeopathic remedy, but I had used a remedy before and she wasn't responding as well. So we added the cold running water. There's little pumps that you can get. You can put on the side of a trough that circulates the water and sort of mimics the running water of a stream or something like that. Or you can spend lots of money on these systems, but they can also be done for virtually nothing. It's the movement of the water over the injury. Horses' hooves, this is very good for their legs and their joints, is this cold running water. Horses that are not the carefulest carrots in the bunch, and they get nicks on their legs, or they're trying to stick their head through barbed wire. Cows are the same way. So it's a cold running water method, and those are some ways you can do it. Alternating compresses. So a compress is either a temperature compress with it's just hot or cold, or it's like a cheesecloth, a muslin cloth that you've packed full of herbs and plants. You can also just put many different plants or substances right on the wound without putting it in a cheesecloth. It's completely up to you. It depends the setting that you're in. If you're in a barn, if you're just in a pasture, if you've got somebody in, maybe you've got a shed that's kind of like your medicine shed. The setting really determines how you put that compress on. But it's alternating hot and cold. Stimulates and simulates circulation. This is very good for strains, sprains, a deeper injury. Like I had a neighbor whose cow got bonked on the side by a small tree that was getting cut down, and the tree fell the wrong way, and it didn't break skin or anything like that. But after it happened, every time the cow would walk, it would make a sound, and you could tell it was hurting. And so I had them do some alternating compresses on that, and we did homeopathic Ruta, R-U-T-A, and it was fine pretty quick. Heating compress is different. So this is the use of a cool towel, what needs to be thin. So for the big animals, it doesn't have to be as thin as it does for the little animals. So with a small animal like a bunny or a goat or dog or cat or chickens, and chickens are hard to do this one on. because they work a little bit differently. So let's say not our feathered friend. And when I say chickens, that covers things with feathers, turkeys, chickens, guinea, all of those. So
Eli.
I'll say the non-feathered. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was saying, we have some people are in the chat. So I'm going to say, if you guys could push them to the Q&A, that would be awesome, because the chat moves so fast, I get lost. But would hydrotherapy work on ligaments on a dog's leg, even if it's an old injury?
Yes. Yes. Along with the homeopathic, those are like, it's a magical combination. Doesn't matter how old the injury is. Hydrotherapy can always assist the body in healing that injury.
Perfect. Would you use salt or honey in a compress?
Well, it depends. Was that salt or honey?
That's what the question is. Joan, if you want to clarify, you're more than welcome to. But it just says, would you use salt or honey in a compress?
Well, it depends. So if I was worried about like a skin infection, or a cut that kind of looked bad, I'd be doing some other stuff too, but I would probably use honey, raw honey. A local raw honey is the best. Pasteurized honey, it may do something, but it's really the raw honey that we're after. Salt, I don't know. I'm just thinking in my mind if would I use a salt compress. So salt is it pulls moisture, and it also can form a crust. But instead of salt, I would probably use clay if I was going to do a drawing compress. I might also do a plant like burdock or yarrow can also be pulling. But for the heating compress, we'll say not for our feathered friends, unless it's something that someone else has taught you that I don't know about. So I'm not saying absolutely, but I would think of a heating compress more for my cows, my horses, my dogs, like, my four-legged creatures. And it's really good for congestion of the respiratory system, or if blood has kind of become stagnant in an area, which happens when you've got a bruise or an injury. Blood kind of, it's not blatantly pooling there, but it has a different consistency. It's thicker, it's more sludgy. And what we really want to do is get stuff moving. Things inside the body and outside the body. We have our best health when we keep things moving and exchanging and vibrant and vital. So this is what I would think of for the heating compress. It wouldn't be good for a weak animal. So if you have an animal that got an injury or got sick and it's been several days and we call it vitality, it's droopy and it's just lethargic, I wouldn't use a heating compress for that. So what happens with the heating compress is you put the cool rag, so either lightweight on a small animal or a little bit heavier weight on a big animal, and then you cover or wrap that with a dry blanket or heavy towel, a couple of heavy towels. So like with horses and cows, like big animals, you have to have a big covering. And you let the animal's body heat up that cool compress until it's dry. And that can take 30 to 45 minutes. And so that takes a lot of vitality to warm up that cold compress. And so you don't want to do that if the animal has lost a lot of blood or is low vitality. Okay, before I go on from hydrotherapy, and I'm going to be doing this again, I think in August, and it'll be just a talk dedicated to hydrotherapy. And so we'll have pictures and probably videos and demonstrations for that. I'll be doing that, I think, for Rogers County. Okay, homeopathy was the second, use the least intervention to get the most results. What is it? Okay, you've probably seen this in the health food store. It comes in little tubes. It also comes in other kinds of packaging. I'm going to show you. It's very safe. You can use it for the youngest 1 day old. You can use it in pregnant animals and people, and very good for the very elderly because it's so safe. Any condition the body is able to heal on its own, homeopathy can assist with that, and it can be mild or serious. It's a whole study, right? It's a whole therapy that has lots of details, and it takes time to learn it. It's well worth the time to learn it because it is very powerful in and of itself. It comes to us from Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, and the way it was discovered, it's likes cure likes, which often gets laughed at until you understand how the system works. And it works by choosing a substance that could cause these symptoms in another human being. But when someone is sick with those symptoms and you give them the remedy that could cause them in a person who's actually healthy, it clears it up. It stimulates the body in some way to clear it up. It was discovered simply from this Dr. Hahnemann translating a plant literature, but it was materia medica of this plant called cinchona, which is where the bark of this plant is where they get quinine from. And we all know how well quinine helps with malaria. So this guy who had written about this plant said, yeah, so it's because it's a bitter plant, and that's why it helps with malaria. Well, Hahnemann was translating that, and he was like, well, that doesn't make sense because there's lots of bitter plants that don't help people with malaria. So he took some. He was a relatively healthy guy, and he developed what looked like the symptoms of malaria. And he was like, well, how can that be? Well, it was. And this is how the whole thing came together. It is developed over the last 200 plus years into a very vibrant, very effective medicine. So how do we use homeopathy on the homestead? Self-care, moderate short-term illnesses and injuries. Chronic illness needs a professional homeopath. But you can learn enough to do first aid and acute treatment. And there's lots of first aid and acute guides out there. What that means is you're sort of taking a shortcut from understanding the entire realm of homeopathy and becoming a practitioner to how can you use it and start using it quickly. If you're ever interested in becoming a practitioner, let me know. I'm happy to give you guidance on how to do that. So you're using it on the homestead for level 1, first aid. Sprains, bruises, cuts, burns, skin irritations, different reactions, colic, things like that. And animals having trouble birthing. There's an entire book, and I didn't put that in your list, but I can find it and maybe get it out to you or through your chat group for animals and homeopathy, animals who are birthing. Level 2, acute homeopathy. An acute situation heals on its own without intervention anyway, like a cut or a strain or a sprain or a broken bone. The body will heal those. But when you add homeopathy to it, it can clear up faster and with less severe symptoms. Really good for anything. But right now we're doing lots of seasonal allergies. Animals have allergies too. The change in weather, changing back and forth, is stimulating some respiratory conditions. And in humans, we've got strep and all kinds of sore throats going around. Lingering injuries, so old injuries, strain or sprains, broken bones, things like that. Level 3, we call it chronic or constitutional homeopathy. These are conditions, complex disease, things that happen that cannot be cured without intervention. You also have emergencies, which cannot be, the creature cannot be saved without an intervention. It's a treatment of a being as a whole, and it includes past and present symptoms. So it's very important to use a professional for that level. Remedies are made out of lots of stuff: plants, animals, elements, minerals, all kinds of stuff. And many of them start toxic, like they're the toxic full strength tinctures or formulas. And in homeopathy, they're diluted and they're succussed, and now they've become potentized. So what do? This little diagram here explains it well. So we have a mother tincture, which is, let's say, a bottle of deadly nightshade, right? Belladonna. You would never give that in its full form, but you take 1 drop of that and you put it in 99 drops of alcohol or water or whatever your diluent is. You pound it on your hand. That's called succussing. And we know now, thanks to the physicists, that when you do that, you're creating some kind of molecular uptick in the vibration of the molecules, the atoms, they're in the substance. And you now have what we would call a 1C. If you did 1 drop to 10 drops, it would be a 1x, and that's Roman numeral, right, for 10x. But C, you'd have a 1C. Then you take 1 drop of that and you add it to another 99 drops. Now you have a 2C. You keep doing that. I work with substances that are labeled 30C to 100C. You cannot find the physical information from the mother tincture there anymore, but information is passed on. We know that. It can be done with electromagnetic resonance imaging, so you can see the difference, and they are duplicatable, meaning I was talking about using belladonna. Well, when you look at it at that, I'm not a physicist, so I don't know this equipment well, but when you look at it with the resonance imaging, 100C belladonna, it always looks the same. So it's a really interesting concept. So there's information there. It's kind of like you have a music CD, and you break it in a million pieces, but any little piece of a music CD that you look at contains all the information from the whole CD. You can see all these bits in a microscope, the paper, the metal, the shiny stuff, but where's the music? The music is still there in every single little tiny piece. If you could read that little tiny piece, you'd have the entire CD. It's holographic, right? And I don't know that homeopathy is that, but there's still information there and it's being transferred somehow. Most important point of me telling you all this is that these substances pose no risk because the toxic part of the plant is gone. Sorry, I'm getting over my own stuff. There's lots of different ways to dose it, pellets, tablets. Living beings can dose it through smelling, liquids, injections, and topical. So lots of different ways. You have to get symptoms or gather symptoms or observe symptoms. With animals, it comes from observing their behavior. I'm going to mute myself for a minute because I have to have a good cough. Hold on.
That's just going around. It's really fun here in Oklahoma. Corey had to answer like 30 calls this week from me about my children trying to die on me.
I know, right? It's the pollen. It's really high right now. So what do you need to observe? And try and figure out where the pain is, because with homeopathy, it's often a different remedy based on where it's located. Or if it started somewhere and now it's multiple places. It can also be really important to understand if you can tell what makes it better and worse. Is it better if you touch it or rub it? Is it worse if you touch it or rub it? Does the temperature seem to make a difference? You have to just kind of sort of be Sherlock Holmes here with animals and trying to figure out what makes something better and what makes something worse. And why do you have to do that? Because it's important to finding the right remedy. You also want to see if anything happens at the same time. The more details that you can sort of pull out and put together on your own, the easier it is to find the remedy. Once you give a remedy, you redose it as needed, or you may have to change it if the symptoms seem to change. I'm doing a Monday night. Well, it's getting ready to be Tuesday night. So next week is Monday night, but then after that, it's going to be Tuesday nights at 7:30, a remedy chat, which goes over a remedy, one remedy at a time, in a short period of time, so that you can learn to use these remedies and when they're helpful. to my local meetings, I bring a little first aid kit. It's got 20 remedies in it. And those are the talks that I'm doing now, but I'll keep doing these. There's lots and lots of advantages to having a kit. It's cheaper. You've got what you need on hand. You don't have to run out to the store. And there's quite a few things that are pretty helpful to have as remedies, but a few topicals and sprays are good too. So you've got this Arnicare cream, which is a really good to put places where the animals can't lick it off, because they will try and lick it off. Ointment, same way. So this is homeopathic calendula in it, good for cuts and scrapes. This Arnicare was good for bumps and bruises. This is good for cuts and scrapes. This colloidal silver spray, it doesn't have to be these brands. These are just the brands I use. And so I have pictures of them handy. This is a colloidal silver. Anytime the skin has been disrupted, or anytime you're worried about microbial infestation in their gut, in their GI tract, it's safe for anything. Even rabbits can have this. And if you do rabbits, you know there's a lot they can't have. Traumeel, aches, pains, and injuries. This should be what, like, you have a little first aid box, and these things go in it, because with homeopathy, the sooner you dose, the faster you dose, the more quickly the animal will recover. You can build the kit by either getting these little tubes in the health food store, 1 or 2 drams. 30C is more than enough to use at home. There's many different strengths, but 30C is a fine place to start. You can get them individually. My favorite packaging solution is these little wallets. And so you can find these online. This one at the bottom right is the kit I make. It's just a small little kit, and it's about this size of a cell phone. And you can stick it on your tack shed shelf or whatever. And these are the remedies, and this should be in the notes for you, of the what I recommend should be in every first aid acute kit. And I see there's a question. Okay, Karen says, are you familiar with electrodermal screening of meridians? Yes. So it's all energy. And there's lots of different ways to read the energy. I learned classical homeopathy, which is piecing together a certain set of symptoms. What is it? What does it feel like? What makes it better? What makes it worse? Is there anything that happens at the same time? And by putting those pieces together, I can search a vast materia medica, which is just all the known information about something. I can search this vast materia medica with this unique combination of symptoms and pretty quickly come to the 1 or 2 remedies that cover that set of symptoms together. What you're asking about is kind of like, well, maybe a shortcut or just a different way to understand the imbalance. And once you know the imbalance, then you know which remedy to pick. Seasonal. Oh,
sorry. And we had a couple of things. Bonnie wanted to point out that opossums can carry a parasite that can kill horses if it gets into the feed, probably based off of what you said in the back. And I was going to bring that up at the end, but there it is. And then she said, what's the longevity of homeopathic tablets when you're buying them?
Well, they don't expire. They have to have an expiration date on them. So the pellets never expire. I have remedies that are over 150 years old from some of the very old prescribers that have been passed down through different generations. I don't have a lot, but some of those have got to be going on 200 years old. But the creams and the sprays are fine. But if it's got a cream or an ointment, you'd want to follow the expiration date on the package. But the pellets, forever. They won't ever go bad. The only thing you have to worry about with homeopathic pellets is getting it too close to a microwave, too close to X-ray, like the airport X-rays are not good. I always have them hand inspect. It can't go through the X-ray. And then sometimes if you have the heavy duty home wireless modem and you put your remedies too close to that, it's like it erases the information or something. Okay, so I'm going to give you like 10, and thank you about the possum and the parasite. I was going to mention that and I forgot to mention it. Yes, so you have to keep, like, the possum itself isn't dangerous to the horse, but you don't want to get it. I think it's its feces in the feed. If whoever brought that up knows that might be helpful.
And then Violet asked, does cornmeal and or apple cider vinegar help baby chicks' digestive system or help them from getting pasty butt?
Well, maybe. Apple cider vinegar is really good. I don't use cornmeal. We use DE, we use apple cider vinegar, we use kefir or kefir, depending on where you're from in the world, how you pronounce it. Ground up pumpkin seed. Like, there's quite a few things when we get to plants and herbal medicine. But I can't answer about the cornmeal and ACV because I've not used that, so I don't know. Sorry. Okay, we've got seasonal allergy symptoms right now, like I mentioned, with lots of critters. If you see skin involvement, like blisters or vesicles or itching or burning or sneezing, coughing, that's all going on at the same time, this is the remedy that will most likely bring them some relief. It's urtica urins. It's also called stinging nettle. It's also a first aid, a human skin burn remedy. And I just delivered some to my neighbor behind me. She's got a little 5 acres back there and she burned her head trying to start something on fire. So it's a really great remedy though for those seasonal allergies, especially if you've got some discharge happening. Not so much the eyes. It would be a different remedy if the eyes were all goopy, but nose. There's other remedies that you would think of for allergy season, like, and I'm telling you here when you would think it. So if you've got really watery eyes and runny nose, allium cepa. And again, I'm going to say we're animals too. So if you're wondering in your head, hey, I wonder if this works for human allergies, it's the same guidelines for humans or any of the animals. Histaminum is you can turn that into a homeopathic remedy. They make it. Watery eyes, runny nose, but what you'll often see are welts. So someone that reacts to histamine often gets these welt-like things on them. They have dermatographism, so like a lightly scratch with your nail, and if that turns into a red welt, that's histamine reaction. And itchy. They're itchy. So you're going to see animals scratching at themselves. And they've got these water. It's not itchy if that's the only symptom. That's different remedy. This is seasonal allergies, watery eyes, runny nose, welts, and itchy. And on animals with fur, you can't necessarily see the welts. You can feel them more than you can see them. Arsenicum, you're going to have sneezing. Their stool is going to change. They're going to be kind of weak and tired, runny nose. And then sulfur, they're hotter, they're hot. They just seem hot or they feel hot. They're not running a fever. They just are emanating heat. And they're worse if you bathe them. They don't want to be bathed. Phosphorus are these allergies that go straight to the chest. This is a really good chicken remedy. So Chick-ick is a formula I put together because my first year with chickens last year, they all got this respiratory, goopy, wheezy stuff. And I was like, I had no idea what was going on. And everybody, that I talked to around here is like, oh, you got to give them this chemically stuff and then you can't eat the eggs for 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a better way, right? And so I just started doing research and reading, and I put together this formula. It's got several different homeopathics in it for when the weather changes, or you get a cold dip, or you get a new 10 or 15 birds. and they've got this congestion stuff. So what we learned is how to tip them over because they can't cough. And I made chick ick. It's one of the things that we were giving away, I think. And then Nux vomica is the last one for seasonal allergy. And they're going to have all typical symptoms that animals get with seasonal allergies, but they're going to be really irritable. And you know irritability in your animals if you've seen it. And if you don't see it, then they're not irritable. Arnica, so this is really important for bumps, bruises. It prevents bruising. It speeds the body through inflammatory state. It reduces the pain, the soreness, like all that stuff. Any injury, I always give arnica. I don't care what it is. Any injury to any animal, they get arnica. If it was traumatic injury, they're also going to get a remedy called aconite, ACONITE, and it's not in this presentation. This works so well that many physicians and healers and practitioners use it pre and post-op because it does such a good job. Hypericum, if you have an animal that has been damaged in a nerve-rich area, so on their feet, their hooves, around for the bigger animals around their nose or mouth, there's lots of nerves there. It's also part of pre and post-op surgical protocol. And you won't know this for sure, but when it's present, I've been able to see it a couple of times, is that there's electric like shooting pains when an injury calls for hypericum, and the animal can look almost as if they're being poked. And that's because they'll get that electric jolt of pain from wherever they're hurt, and they'll it'll startle them and they'll jump or they'll yelp or they'll try and move away from the pain because it's just sudden and electric like. For any animal that has been injured on its tailbone or the tailbone area, this remedy, hypericum, and this other remedy, ruta, are the two top. And I don't dork around. I just give them both at the same time, even though that's not classical homeopathy. But for first aid and acute situations, oftentimes it's one or two remedies or you're alternating. I would never do that for chronic treatment. Arsenicum, you're going to have nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, along with restlessness and a weakness, and they may seem very anxious. Really good for fevers, food poisoning, if they've gotten into something bad and they're having some kind of reaction to that. Not all animals can vomit, so it may just be stool changes. Apis is for stings and other allergic reactions. And I'm not reading all this, it's in your notes. So you can go back through and look at this. Thirstier, if you tried to put a warm rag on a creature that needed apis, it would be worse. It wants cold, it would want a cold rag. And when you find something that alleviates the suffering of one of your animals, and it helps them feel better, they'll like it. So don't dismiss them moving away from something warm as they just don't want to have that therapy or that wrap or you coming at them with something, because if it helps, this is a pure undiluted response. They're going to want more of it. And so you can often tell if it's heat or things like that. You'll see them drinking a lot. When an animal gets stung or is punctured, you would think of apis. You might also think of latum. It's another remedy. Any puncture, hook, nail. We live on 17 acres of pasture where there's rocks and sticks and things blow around, and sometimes the guys don't clean up things as well as they should, although they're getting better at that. So anything that punctures the skin of an animal should have latum. And you want to give several doses. A dose, if you're using the pellets, is 3 pellets. They're really small. I treated a racehorse years ago up here in close by with a serious attitude with 3 doses of a remedy called chamomile and homeopathic chamomile. And the groom could not believe that those 3 little pellets were going to have any effect on that horse. It took 3 doses and it was completely cured of what we were treating it for. Tick bites. So if you've got creatures roaming around and they got ticks on them, you should be dosing this regularly. Go ahead, Julie.
We had Karen said you're a walking encyclopedia, and I was like, yes, she is. And she asked if you'd list all the others that know, and you just want them to email you if they'd like a list of those other people that you recommend, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For people who don't want to use the tetanus vaccine, this is the substitute for it. Staphysagria for knife cuts. So anything sharp, a piece of glass, a knife, a very sharp rock, it doesn't matter. If it's a slice or a cut, this is also a surgical pre and post-op remedy. They're very sensitive. And if you've got a creature having trouble with their teeth, this is Staphysagria is often a remedy that can help. Okay, so I know that's a lot, but I tried to give you notes that could help. And these are some key remedies for a first aid kit on the homestead, right? Because we get all of these things. The hydrotherapy for the bumblefoot, the homeopathy for these wounds and things, herbal medicine, because plants are very powerful. You can use them topically, you can use them internally. One of the things that you want to be careful of is if there's anything on your property that isn't good for your animals, you want to move it. And there's people all around who can help you identify. Plant your own to save a ton of money. You don't need a lot to make tinctures and compresses and stuff like that. You just make up your medicine chest. And I've seen lots of really good plants as medicine come through these groups. My all-time, and this is in the notes, the ones you can, the links that you can download. They're on that URL that I gave you. Sorry, it's late. It's late for you, for East Coasters too. All-time favorite for wounds is from Doc Jones. It's a compress of comfrey, calendula, yarrow, plantain, little bit of cayenne. You could add some echinacea if you were worried about an infection. So you can put this together into a compress. It doesn't have to be a heating compress. It can just be an herbal compress, which is different often than hydrotherapy. You can do tincture, strain herbs, mix with water, and then have this as a spray on if it's some kind of wound. Usually if it's a wound, we're going to use it topically and use homeopathy internally. There's a link to this recipe from Grit, Natural Pest Control for Animals. It is awesome. And there was no reason for me to recreate all that here when it's already done, it's well written, and the link for it is in that document. Wood, ash, and diatomaceous earth, they're your best friends. We mix ours together, our fireplace ash with diatomaceous earth. We use it to control mites and lice and all kinds of bugs, and garlic. Although you can give them to chickens, I think it makes the eggs taste a little bit funny. The supplements, the basics, diet, water, minerals, right? In addition to that, hay-fed animals, often we see a drop in their vitamin A, D, and E levels. They're fat soluble though, so you don't want to just give them willy-nilly. You can have the vet do a quick blood test. I'm sure there's stuff that you can do at home if you needed to. If it's fresh hay, you don't really have to worry about it. It's just if it's sat for a season and that's their primary food or a big supplement to their food, you want to make sure you get the critters some A, D, and E, and their macro and micro minerals. Molasses, not for rabbits. Molasses is B vitamins and other really good stuff. It's a good binder, and you can give it, you can mix it into feed, and you can use it to administer medicine if you need to. Turmeric, grow this. It's expensive, but it is powerful plant medicine. It can be added to everybody's feed. It's an antioxidant, it's an anti-inflammatory. I use it in people all the time, and we use it in our animals. We've got old horses. Garlic. Now, the trick with garlic will repel flies, most flies, not those little irritating small black flies, but the rest of the flies, and ticks. As soon as we started this a year and a half ago, the tick population, the ticks adhering to the animals dropped more than half. And after a year of use, they're a fraction of what they were when we got here. It's also antimicrobial to the gut. For chickens, specifically, when we're talking supplements, any of these things, ground pumpkin seed, you have to grind the pumpkin seed really for it to be effective. That's really good for worms and other parasites. Kelp and seaweed powder help boost the part of the immune system that repels lots of different things. Orange veggies, because they're high in vitamin A. Chickens really like pumpkins and yams. Cayenne pepper, they don't have the heat receptors. Most animals don't have the heat receptors for cayenne. Safe to use, it increases circulation. And then here's the 4 main remedies in chick ick, although there's a couple more, but these are common. The other 2 you can't just get on the open market. So this stands for gelsemium, aconite, bryonia, and phosphorus. Rabbits need very little extra. Vitamin A from veggies, orange and red veggies, dark leafy greens, turmeric, chemical-free hay, fresh water, safe, secure, love, and interaction, your rabbits are fine. If they hurt themselves, I would use hydrotherapy, I would use homeopathy, and I do both of those before I even got to the stronger plant medicine. And then the last is, go ahead.
Does turmeric need to be paired with pepper?
It does not need to be paired. Not if it's ground up. Pharmacy and surgery. The pharmacy for your animals is clearly not natural medicine, but sometimes to preserve a life, you have to turn to pharmacy, and you have things like antiseptics, antibacterials, kill the fungus, all that sort of stuff. Many of those have natural counterparts, and it's pretty easy to find that. You can always reach out to me, and there's lots of other folks that you can ask about this. Ionophores are used to improve production, basically. They have a long fancy thing, but they're really trying to improve production, especially of the ruminants. Steroids, of course, just like in humans, right? Steroids, and they also use these peptide production enhancers for milk production, anti-parasitic drugs, antibiotics. It's pharmacy. Sometimes you need it to save a life. I just, even for people, rarely turn to pharmacy. I've written less than 5 prescriptions in 18 years of medicine. And I've treated people just like any other doctor, because the body has the ability to heal itself. Most conditions that are not life-threatening, even though the standard of care, the protocol is to prescribe something for it, most of those things, if they're not life-threatening, can be treated naturally. Surgery and pharmacy, these are last resort therapies in natural medicine, but when it's needed, it's always recommended. I mean, it's just last resort, right? What else can be done? As I said earlier, vets are more holistic than their counterparts in the human world. And I would encourage all of you to take a basic course in putting in stitches. This will save you a lot of money, a lot of stress. Things heal better if the wound is too big. And there's no reason why. That we did this for hundreds of years on our own, for thousands of years on our own. So find a local course. Maybe that's something really great we could put together. Third rule, the treatment must leave the animal in a better state of health than when you began. That's it. We are assisting the body to heal itself, and any and all treatment must do that when you're talking natural medicine. And then finally, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And then you bring in nature cure and restoring health and restore the gut. Any animal that's put on antibiotics needs to have probiotic treatment afterward. And that's all kinds of stuff. Ferment the grains, use kefir, get a commercial probiotic, etc. So you do what you got to do. You put it down. You need surgery. You need pharmacy. You need to rehome an animal. Just do that. So a recap: establish the foundations of health. Use the least intervention for maximum healing. Treatment should leave the animal in a better state, and do what you got to do. 2, bonus. Do I have time to do these last 2? I'll be fast. Julie?
Sorry, you know my children.
know.
Yes,
Do I have
you are
time?
just, yes, you're just fine.
Okay. So I heard through the grapevine that people wanted to know specifically about ticks and worms. So here's a couple of bonus things that I put together. You can't kill off ticks without toxifying your entire property. And there's a typo in the notes you have that I caught right before I jumped on. I said you can do it, but you can't do it without creating toxicity on your property, and they still won't be gone. So what do? I have you would be hard pressed to find a tick on our property. We had almost no ticks last summer at all once we started doing these things naturally. So we control the population. There's a lot of ways: quails, chickens, guineas, turkeys, ducks. Ducks are some of the best tick hunters we have. We have 4 ducks. We have no ticks. And we have 17 acres and woods on all around us. We have deer every day, morning and night, that come bounding through. We have lots of critters with fur picking up ticks and dropping them. So Western fence lizards, those are really good. Those are really great in your garden as well, because not only do they like ticks out around the garden, but they like the bugs in the garden. Opossums, you can create a little habitat for them. Keep them away from any feed shed, any feed source. Chipmunks, squirrels, this wildlife collection, any 3 or more of these will eliminate greater than 95% of ticks. It's not just on my property. This is, talking to extension offices and people out there who are using sort of natural methods and permaculture and all this stuff. You can also discourage them. So we actively kill them, and then we discourage them from being there anyway by planting any of these garlic, sage, mint, lavender, beautyberry, all of this stuff. Use it in your fields, companion plant in your beds, put it around buildings, at the edge of the fields and the woods. Just make sure if you have animals grazing these that they can eat whatever you're planting in that area. Essential oils, these work. The one with the oregano has a star because that has the best literature. So it's not just that I can see it work, right? Because I'm a human, common sense. If I use something and it works, I'm going to keep using it until someone can convince me why I shouldn't. So oregano, thyme, citronella, we know this. Clove, eucalyptus, geranium. You don't need all of them. Pick 3. Three's a really good number to go with. You want about 20 to 40 drops and 4 ounces of water. Never put essential oils directly on the skin of any creature. You have to put it into a carrier oil like olive or almond, like one of those fixed oils, or coconut. So those are ticks. And then I have worms, parasitic worms. Parasitic worms, I'm not giving you a specific species, just worms, and there's all different kinds. The top 3 homeopathics. Now, you may be saying, well, hold on a minute. You told me that I diluted this medicine way down. There's not even original substance. And how is something like that supposed to get rid of worms? Well, guess what? The body gets rid of the worms. We have lived with worms for, if you believe we've been here 6,000 years, for 6,000 years, if you believe we've been here 25,000 or 150,000 years, we've lived with worms, our animals and us. These 3 homeopathics have a long history of helping to expel worms. Completely gone, just the homeopathic. But you could also add in garlic. You don't want to get the fancy chef garlic. You want to get the big bags of garlic. And garlic doesn't get pests, so you don't have to worry about organic. They don't spray garlic. Nothing eats garlic. The pests leave it alone. It's its own pest repellent. Diatomaceous earth. This is such a wonderful substance, and it can really help keep the inside of animals functioning good. Powdered pumpkin seeds. I cannot speak highly enough. The average effectiveness of these foods, carrots, beets, bananas, apples, coconut, papaya, they've all been established to be food-based dewormers, but they only help to a certain percent. So you've got to add in some of these other things. Fermented foods. The more fermented foods they eat, the healthier their gut microbiome, the less chance that, because let me tell you, we're swallowing worms and parasites and organisms all the time. So a good, healthy, functioning gut in people and in animals can expel that stuff. When you start to have compromised health and then you get exposed to something, then it has found an environment, that thing, that worm or that bug or whatever, finds an environment in that less than healthy body and it thrives in it. So as soon as you make it inhospitable by increasing the health of the organism, it's going to take off. It's going to go find somewhere else to live. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to make me really unpopular, I think, in some camps, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ivermectin, it is one of the safest, most effective thing to use. It does not stay in the meat or the milk or the eggs. Maybe the energetic information of it is there, but I got to tell you, if you've got a really infested animal, you can do this other stuff and it will help over time. But if they are incredibly infested, it is a health risk. And it's much better to treat them with the ivermectin and then reestablish the healthy parameters and the foundations and add these things into their diet. Whew, I tried to do that really fast so I didn't keep everybody late. Thank you.